You are listening to the BlahCade Pinball Podcast. I am your host, Chris Freebus, aka Shut Your Trap. Joining me as always, halfway across the world, Jared Morgan.
Hey, Chris. How's it going? It's like we just spoke recently.
I know, huh?
Yeah. Because,
Jared
I
and I
just
had some occasion to have some private chats going on for various reasons.
Yeah. But not only that, I've only just released the podcast as of Friday. Managed to upload it late Friday night my time. So it feels like, it sort of feels like we've only just started, finished the other episode.
Right, because you just were listening through it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's very strange. Very strange indeed.
Yes, it is. So this whole episode, we're just going to jump right in. This whole episode on just 2 days ago, I went and took the trip up the mountain, up to Big Bear, to visit FarSight. And the specific reason that I was going there was I really wanted to get my hands on the Arcuda software and on the cabinet that FarSight has. And really uber specifically, I wanted to see the Kinect in action experience that.
That's the killer feature, man. Like, that's the thing. And it sort of translates okay in videos, but I bet you're going to tell us what it's like in real life.
Well, and that's just it. It was like there's only so much you can get from the video, and I think the video also kind of led me to believe I was going to experience certain things that maybe I don't. So
okay, well,
So up the hill I went. The last 2 times I've been up there, it was always winter, so it was nice to not have to worry about snow anywhere.
Snow chains, yeah,
exactly.
Do they normally keep the road pretty clear going up there, or was it really you got to like put the chains on and deal with it in the winter?
No, when it's the problem with Southern California, you got to realize is that snow melts a lot during the day, and then the roads just become ice. So that's why it's constant chains when going up the mountain. Once you're actually on top of the hill, I think you could probably get away with not wearing chains as much.
Okay.
But even then, it's windy everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's mountain driving.
Yeah. See, mountain driving up here in Queensland is nice. You just get on it and you drive around, It's the only thing you have to worry about, I remember when I was on the bike, was pretty much riding around in the forest areas. You have to watch for wet leaves on the ground because they basically turn like glass, the road like glass. So.
No, the best way to describe it, you ever seen those car commercials where they do an aerial shot and it's just this snake of switchbacks?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
basically Big Bear Road.
Exactly.
Whatever it's called.
The main one is Big Bear Road, actually.
Oh, right. There you go.
Not hard to guess on that.
Somebody used that logic on that one for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, went in there and tracked down Mike and Rob. Rob, you all know on the forum as Flippy Floppy. And Mike, it's Mike Lindsay, who, if you watch the Twitch broadcast, that's who always hosts the Twitch broadcast.
And he's Mike on GNAR Mike on Twitter, I think, too.
Correct. Yeah. So those guys found those guys real quickly, and then we went into Mike Reitenauer's. I think it's Reitenmeyer. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Mike R.
Car's office.
who's the lead programmer? We went to his office where they had the Arcuda cabinet set up.
Mike's the one that's pretty much running the Stro on Steam, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So right away, things that I realized with the cabinet that they have, I knew that they'd had it for a while. I didn't realize that it's like the prototype of prototypes.
Oh, like the alpha version.
Yeah. So they've had the machine for 2 years, I believe.
Right.
And so, compared to the pictures that we've seen online of what the Arcuda cabinet looks like now, quite a bit different.
Right. Okay.
Just in terms of the style of sticks that are on it. There's no graphics on it. The head, the back box and everything is a little bit different looking.
Right.
all that. So it's like, okay, whatever. But so long as it works and functions, that's good enough for me.
Mhm.
They had the Connect sitting on top of the back box,
Okay.
and
Because I think in the
so
production cabinets, they've actually got like a little housing for it. Hey.
well, it turns out that the Ultra model has the housing for it, but the
Uh-huh.
Pro and Standard, no, it's just going to be you're going to just
On the
have to
top.
set it on top.
Okay.
Yeah, so then it was just a matter of just jumping in. So first thing that you'll notice is the touch screen.
Yep.
And it took me a little bit to wrap my head around it because I'm so used to using a controller.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use, there's on theirs, they had a dual joystick and a full button array on the apron.
Oh yes.
And
So they
so
had
I
the
thought,
full
oh, do I
lockdown
use the
bar.
joystick to navigate? Do I use the the flipper buttons to navigate? And Mike just reached over and goes tap and taps on the screen. It's like, oh yeah, that. So
Okay.
if you're at all familiar with the mobile app, that's essentially what you're doing. That's how you navigate through this entire thing.
Okay.
Um,
It looks
and-
like the menu system is identical to Android. Like it really does.
Yeah. Now, what they did was, though, they made sure that all the button pushes are on the lower half of the screen.
So where the apron is, essentially. The lockdown apron, where the
Well,
controls
no,
are.
what I mean is of the vertical screen, of the 43-inch screen,
Mhm.
you're only using the bottom half. Pretty much.
Oh, righto.
You're not having to reach all the way up to the top of the screen.
That would make sense because that'd be pretty hard. Like
Yeah.
for some short people.
Yeah. So that was one of the
challenge people.
That was one of the big things that Arcuda had FarSight do with the software right off the bat was to make it so that it's
usable
there. So I selected Addams Family first off, just because I figured that's kind of the
best show pony to use. Yeah,
it's kind of the premier table to use and whatever.
Yeah,
and yeah, boom, right off the bat, you kind of move your head side to side, and you can notice that the electric chair, and you're seeing it kind of shift and everything, and I leaned forward, and everything kind of rotated for so you can get a little bit better view of things. So I was like, okay, that's rather interesting. Plunged, start flipping away, and I mean, it played like Addams Family and looked like Addams Family and sounded like Addams Family, but
so it wasn't a duck. It wasn't the duck quite.
No, but my first immediate reactions were, and I guess I kept on thinking with the Kinect that it was going to look 3D.
Yeah,
and I'm going to state now, you're not going to be fooled into thinking you're seeing a 3D surface.
Okay.
It is still a 2D looking display. However, since you can move your head, you can get different angles than you've ever seen before on the table. And that is nice because it's those little subtle movements. Like when you get if you're playing, say, Medieval Madness or anything with inlanes at the top of the playfield that are slightly obscured by something, you wanted to see the light or which light is lit.
Yeah.
Well, now if you lean, it's that natural tendency of you to want to lean and see. Well, now you'll be able to see it, and so it does respond exactly how you would with actual three-dimensional features. But you're not going to be fooled into thinking that it's a legitimately 3D, sunken table. That's just not.
Yeah, right.
That's not going to happen.
So is it more like when I've seen the videos, it looks more like just layers. So in the case of Attack from Mars, when it was in the demo video that Arcuda released, it looked like the habit rails were sort of floating above the street level playfield, and sort of when they move around, it looks like the perspective sort of moves up and down. I'm doing this with my hands, which won't translate into the the podcast. So, which is why you should be joining us here.
Yes. No, it's not, because what you're describing is what I like to think of when you watch a documentary these days, right? And all they have is photos to deal with.
Yeah.
They'll a lot of times separate elements out of the photo.
Oh, yeah. And layer them.
layer them.
Yes.
It's not that. It's not like
okay.
it's not flat layers. So legitimately, when you look at the habit trail, if you come down low on the table, you're going to get a lower perspective. So your head is it is reacting in 3D space. What I'm just saying is it would be okay. How about this? If you closed one eye and played a real
Table.
a real Attack from Mars, it'd be like that.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay, so it's a 2D with 3 dimensions though that you're able to see in.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
Right.
I guess that'd be the best example. Close one
Yeah,
eye
no, that makes sense.
and,
Yeah, I get
and
that.
go with that way.
So really, it's about the different. It's essentially a head tracking camera, is what it
yes.
is. So rather than a 3D mode, it's a head tracking camera, which allows you to have a more natural view experience when you're playing the table.
And for those that are curious, the 3 camera modes, or excuse me, there's 4 camera views in the software for those that aren't playing on an Arcuda cabinet. You have the completely top-down view, which is called the iPad view, and then you have the other 3 views. Well, essentially, that's what the Kinect is shifting views between. It's
okay.
it's kind of merging and extrapolating, but that is how those 3 views were derived. Basically, Arcuda, they got their hands on being able to pick what the camera heights were and what you'd be able to see, fed that information to FarSight. FarSight then wrote it in, and this is what they've come up with.
So I guess what it is between those 3 views, there's like a ceiling and a floor between those 3 views. So if you are looking sort of getting down too low, it'll switch into the next view, but at the ceiling of view 2 instead of the
Right,
floor
so it's
of 3.
It's completely seamless, but yes, I think you're absolutely correct.
I see. Right. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So one of the things that was the first thing I noticed, and the second thing I noticed was that I was experiencing a little bit of lag between me pushing the flipper or pushing the button for the flipper and the flipper actually flipping. Now, when I say that there was a little bit of lag, I equate it to when I was playing on my PS3 years ago and dealing with the lag on my TV. It was never so bad that it made the pinball unplayable. Like, say, if I try and if I try and play on my TV currently, I don't have enough refresh, or I don't know what the millisecond refresh is.
You don't have enough hertz to throw around.
But anyway, I can legitimately not play on my TV.
Right.
Whereas on my old TV, my brain quickly adapted to it, and I was able to play with no problem.
Okay.
So, and we had a discussion with Steve from Arcuda yesterday, and he told us that on their machines, which are the more modern update, what's closer to what's going to be released,
the ones that you're seeing on the videos that they're producing now, basically.
Exactly. That they're not experiencing basically what I experienced. Yeah. So he says there's inherently going to be a little tiny bit of lag between, the from the components talking to each other. But so and I'll also state that by the time I got onto playing my second or third table, I'd adapted to it.
Right.
So,
okay.
I'm just coming from playing on my PC at home where I have 0 lag.
Yeah, right.
But
so you have to expect some lag because of the way that the interface boards are working, and it's probable as well. Because I mean, if Steve was saying in our chat yesterday that they're not seeing any of that lag, it's most likely because they have very outdated I/O boards on that cabinet.
Right, and then also FarSight is still continuing to work on
latency issues and tuning
and improving it. Yeah.
So
these are all things that.
It sounds like a combination between old alpha equipment that they're running it on, plus old interface boards, plus also probably an older model computer in there as well. There's a lot of old going into the
plus whatever code is currently running. So
that's right.
It's one of those things that it wouldn't discourage me at this point
Yeah.
that it's being that I think it's correctable. Let's put it to you that way.
You're right. So you don't think
and as it is right now, it's not a deal breaker by any way, shape, or form. I mean, I played on the thing for over an hour, so.
Right. So you didn't basically walk away going, "Oh, this is crap" because of the lag.
Right.
You went, "This is great because I'm playing pinball on a big cabinet."
So what was interesting was, but then I threw in, I opened up Fireball.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't experience lag at all.
Oh, okay.
So again, I think it's code more than anything.
It could be on those, because Adam's Family is in comparison to Fireball a pretty old table in the FarSight universe. So perhaps
yes, but there's also a lot more going on that impacts the processor in Adam's Family as compared to Fireball. So that's why I'm saying I think it's more code based than anything.
It sounds like it. So anything in code can be optimized. So
right.
Yeah.
The other thing that I tested out immediately was I wanted to see backglass and what was going on with that. And so I threw on Xenon, and there was no infinity bulb going around. And it was at that point that I was told that currently a lot of unless the animation is essential to the backglass, most of the animations have been turned off currently because they were getting a performance hit, and FarSight's trying to figure that out and optimize for it. But also with the case of like Xenon, you're talking about backglasses that are more or less square, and they're going on to a 16:9 aspect ratio TV. So certain things are going to get cut off, and
light's unfortunately probably one of those things.
Especially if it's giving you a performance hit, so might as well just zoom in and not worry about it. But as they pointed out, at least they got the girl's button there.
Priorities.
So that was that. So then I decided, okay, I've kind of run through my checklist of things I wanted to kind of see. Now I need to run through the things that I wanted to see with the Arcuda or with the Kinect camera. So the first thing I did was I loaded up T2.
Okay.
Because everybody's been asking, can you do the lean and get a better angle on the Canon?
Yeah.
And I can 100% tell you, yes, you can. And awesome. It's pretty cool. Because I did exactly the kind of lean that you would normally do on a real machine, and it presented itself exactly how I expected. Same thing with Star Trek Next Generation and those cannons.
Canon leans,
Yep, you can totally just lean in and see it. So that made me think, oh, well, let me check this out. So I loaded in 8-Ball Deluxe. So 8-Ball Deluxe has the vertical or
inline targets.
Well, not the inline targets. No, just the regular drop targets that are on the right-hand side of the table, the horseshoes.
Yes.
But you couldn't tell that they're horseshoes when playing the game because you never see that angle.
Oh,
right?
okay.
The only time you'll ever see that is when the camera's doing the flyby, on regular. If you're playing on Steam and you went, as soon as you load up the table, camera does that little flyby thing. That's the only time you're ever going to see that. Oh, hey, look, there's horseshoes on the drop targets. When you're in game, it's just a flat white. You're seeing the tops basically, and that's it, right?
Yeah, true. And because the horseshoes are actually, it's a stamped.
It's stamped on it, right?
So it's not like a decal or a picture. It's actually just very fine lines. So it would be lost on the angle. Yeah.
Exactly. So again, shift your angle, and you can see them. There they are, clear as day. So it's really cool to be able to look at more of the detail that's on the table in ways that you've never been able to see it before, other than watching that camera fly by. And it works. You leaning way far over the table, everything, the perspective shifts accordingly.
That's very cool.
Now you can lean too far.
Oh, really? What happens then?
The whole table goes and like it's weird, stretched. It's bizarre. And something that they're currently working on is because this happened a few times, if somebody walks behind you, then the camera tries tracking them too. And all of a sudden, the camera angle starts going dancing back and forth.
Just imagine if that was in the arcade and that was happening when people were watching you. The whole perspective would just be jumping around everywhere.
Yeah. So
not ideal.
that's something that FarSight and Akuda, they're aware of, and they're going to be trying to make it so that it'll track one individual and not be distracted by other individuals
It's
walking.
almost like they need to have a. I reckon if I would put my how would I do this hat on, I would actually have like a sort of like a virtual sort of box or frame.
Like when you first start, that it goes, are you the player? Yes.
Yes.
Push the button, and then that's
Pretty
the only
much,
thing you can track.
Yeah, and sort of like have it like a initial setup phase sort of thing where you go, hey, you're new to this. We don't recognize your face, because I'd say that the Kinect can actually do face mapping as well.
It absolutely can.
So you could probably do really like rough. Not that anyone, I don't think Akuda is going to be collecting facial masks of people in their.
No, I don't think you need to identify it that way. I think it's simply if you're standing there, right, and as soon as the game gets ready to start up, little red box goes around anybody that it sees, if you will.
Yeah,
you can show silhouettes for all I care, on the back, and just say who's playing, and you go, boom, that's me. And then that's who it locks onto, and it never veers off of you. So anybody else that's walking behind you,
I reckon
it would just ignore. But again, that's coding.
That's
and
totally
I honestly think that might fall into Arcuda's lap for doing Kinect coding, but I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah.
And the only reason why I say that is because it's not
part of FarSight's
game. Right. This is some add-on. So,
but well, yeah, it might be an IO board thing that they have to configure for Kinect. It could actually be proprietary. Yeah, you could be right.
Regardless, so long as nobody's walking behind you, it works pretty well. But yeah, you're right about the ceiling and everything, because you can dip too low.
Yeah,
it won't track anymore either. It'll look all really bizarre. Like you just dropped acid or something.
Acid mode, like the Acid Queen in Pinball Wizard.
Yeah.
in Tommy. So if you go really low and you screw up the view, and then you stand up again, does it all
automatically corrects to where it should be? Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah. So then I threw in Whirlwind, and that was my first kind of experience when I went, I see the potential. I see the possibilities now. Because Whirlwind had a really great back glass. It had the 6 boxes that you can light for depending on what the seller value is, which is something that's I'm sorely miss in the regular TPA version, because it only shows 1 box at a time.
Yeah, it does.
And so the back glass looked great. The alphanumeric, because that didn't have DMD, but the alphanumerics got placed into the DMD, and it looked perfect, looked great.
Cool.
And then the table itself, and this is where the Kinect really shined, looked wonderful. And I realized why it looks wonderful is it has lots of ramps and clear objects to look through.
Plenty of layers.
And so there was plenty of things shifting ever so with your subtle shifting, something I didn't notice as much in Attack from Mars and Addams Family.
No, because all the ramps and stuff, all the habit rails,
there was side and
playfield shields.
Yeah.
On Attack from Mars, so you don't really get, and they're all right at the back of the playfield. But that massive plastic ramp in Whirlwind is huge, and I remember when on mobile they were doing the conversion over from low level of detail to high level of detail, and we tried to test out the Whirlwind table. We found that whole ramp is one huge alpha pane. So it is just a massive alpha pane with all the flasher tech built into it. So it's a huge overlay in that table. So it would have looked amazing, I would have imagined.
Yeah, that one really captured. And I'm very familiar with Whirlwind, because it's what I basically got addicted to pinball on.
I just had a thought. I just had a thought of something. Now, when your perspective shifts and you've got a light show going on, you know how the way they do the flasher tech in Pinball Arcade, they use alpha panes around all the flasher globes to sort of put that sort of flare in, that flasher flare. If you're moving your head around, do those alpha panes actually shift, or are they static? to where the flasher is. Do you know what I mean?
I
So
know
there's
what
a
you
pane,
mean. No, it all looked correct. I didn't see it all of a sudden being shifted,
like out of perspective, like
right.
the
No, no,
pane
no,
didn't
no. I didn't
shift
notice
with the
any of that.
object. Oh, that's cool. Because
Yeah.
that would break the illusion, right?
Well, that would
You're getting
completely break the illusion. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome that they
So,
managed to get that right.
now at this point, also, I discovered that they hadn't adjusted any of the lighting or, bulb brightness or room ambience, and so
All right.
I real
You did
quickly,
that.
I real quickly did that, knocked it down, and had a nice discussion about this is what I expect my tables to look like at
So you
50%.
basically got. Oh, is it Mike? Mike R. Who
Mike.
does that? It's Mike.
No, no. Flippy Floppy. Rob is the one that deals with lighting currently.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
So he said, Rob, let me give you a live demo of how I tune these tables.
Pretty much.
Right.
Throughout the day, I kind of got in a lot of my comments to them, and was able to show them actual examples. It's one thing saying it in text; it's another thing when I can go, look right here, right there. That's what I'm talking about. That I'm, fix that. So
this thing triggers me hard. This thing right here that I'm pointing at on the screen. Fix that.
Right. But so anyway, after Whirlwind and playing with the lighting, I went, you know what I really need to see? I need to see Black Hole.
Oh,
because in 2D,
playfield.
always had a problem with the sunken playfield. It just doesn't, I don't know, my eye has a real hard time going to it, and it just doesn't make much sense to me. I load up Black Hole and my jaw dropped.
Oh, yeah?
Because that sunken playfield looks amazing. You do the slightest of head shifts and you're seeing into that thing just like you would on the real table.
Wow.
And suddenly there was no issue in my mind of knowing that's a window and there's a sunken playfield quite a few inches below it. I was no longer fooled by, hey, what are these weird flippers at the top that, and the ball's just rolling right over the top of them.
I don't get this. It looks so convincing, doesn't it?
It looks so convincing. And again, talk about, when you go to the side of the cabinet and look down in, and you're seeing those angles, and it looks really cool. So then I was like, well, I hate Haunted House. I really loathe that table. Let's pop.
Let's have a go.
I popped that in, and again, that window pane looked amazing. And the upper playfield looked really good too. Like suddenly whereas before I was saying that things didn't quite look 3D, that's the most 3D I've seen Haunted House look. It just visually made sense.
Right.
And I was actually, God forbid, having fun on it. So
shut the door. Far out.
So that was I immediately once I was home and kind of giving my notes to Arcuda on what I had seen, I was like, you guys need to do a video of that. Because that to me sold the Kinect. It's a deal breaker. And I didn't try but a fraction of the tables. Because you could spend all day just going through the tables, and I had other things I wanted to see there.
You know what I reckon they should do? They should get a GoPro, put it on their head, and have that almost like the player
that'd
perspective.
Be good.
Yeah, that's what they should do.
It would be good.
Oh, I have to tell them that, actually. Get them to get a GoPro and do it. Because really, that's the problem, right? Like, all the videos I've seen of the player being to the, the camera being off to the left or off to the right.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't sell it. You need to have that player perspective, right?
Yes. Something else, people have been complaining about the egg-shaped ball. So because of what's happening with this whole 3D perspective thing of cabinet mode, things are kind of getting stretched near the top of the playfield.
Oh.
Now, if you're playing on, say, VB Cabs' Vertigo table, where it's a vertical playfield, it's probably going to be way more noticeable than if you're playing on a true pin cab.
Right.
And the reason for this is that perspective shift. If you think about when you're driving and you come up, across the word stop written on the road.
Yep.
It looks prospectively, stretched. No, it doesn't look stretched until you go to the side or you go directly over the top of it. But in your car, it looks
right.
Looks proper.
Yes.
Exactly. So as I was playing, I wasn't noticing the egg shape so much. When I was observing, I noticed it a lot more. So again, it has to do with how you're standing, how you're lined up with the table, and whether that's going to be more severe to you or not. So I imagine all those with the Vertigo cabinet that have been playing this, that they're the ones that are noticing this the most because it's right there at eye level.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
So, but I made sure that I pointed it out at least to FarSight, again, they've read the reports on the forum. I just wanted to make sure that they actually were able to see it.
That point.
As somebody pointed out also in the forum, that the exact same thing happens to Time Shock.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's. I'm not sure if there's necessarily a fix for that or not.
It could actually be an inherent problem with running virtual pinball on a vertical cabinet. It could just be that perspective is just too long at the back.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hard to say. I'm no expert.
It is hard to say. The nudge wasn't set up other than it being side-to-side nudge, and it was full nudge. There was no.
Right.
They told me they're working on partial nudge. They also didn't have the bumping the table straight up nudge activated.
Which for me is the one I use most of the time.
Oh, that's the one totally you'd use most of the time. So I wasn't able to really mess with that. And their plunger strength that, as it was set up currently, was way too sensitive. At first,
like launch button.
Exactly. At first, I thought that's exactly what it was. And it wasn't until I was playing Fireball that suddenly I made a skill shot. And I went, well, that's impossible if I'm
doing full plunge all the time. Yeah.
But what I realized I was doing was I was barely pulling back on the plunger. And so then I made sure I looked to see as I pulled back on the plunger, and I was doing a jump. It was going from 0 to like 50 to 100. So it wasn't a true natural. So that was something else that I pointed out to the guys there, and we're like, that's So
I wonder if that's actually hardware or software, because that would be a 3-year-old digital plunger on that machine.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's both. I think it's and we've seen this before on FarSight tables where they had the plungers way too sensitive on certain tables that need finessing to get the skill shots, and there was absolutely no way. I mean, we're talking about it would be a single pixel difference between being able to make a skill shot and not.
Yeah, I remember Taxi was terrible for that.
Exactly.
So I think Brighter Pinbot's also another one. There's just a sweet spot that you got to get every time.
And then when you think about it, every single Twilight Zone I've ever played, there's barely any spring on the plunger, and you can pull back quite a ways and let go, and it's not knocking the ball very hard.
Yeah.
So it's a table by table basis, and that's a tuning issue there. But beyond that, I gotta say that the cabinet felt, as I described it, it felt like an old Gottlieb cabinet and not a Data East cabinet.
So heavy as hell.
Heavy as hell, and no creaking, no flimsy plastic feel. It felt like a tank. But again, this is just the prototype, not a production model. However, we were informed that the production models are going to be using the same parts that are being used in Homepin's Thunderbird's table.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
They sound like pretty good cabinets. So
right, this isn't going to be some shoddy
sort of backyard CNC job,
right?
Right. Held together with just glue.
So yeah, eventually I had my fill of I'd seen enough of the Kinect camera, and I should also note this cabinet didn't have the boards that could do any of the shaker motors, any of the coils. The sound was kind of cool because you could feel the sound in your hands. So the flipper sounds were making you actually somewhat feel like that sensation of the flipper. So I can only imagine what having coils in would do, especially when you hit pop bumpers and stuff.
That'd be amazing. It would actually with that and the 3D, you would lull yourself into thinking it was real for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would settle you in and stuff.
Mm.
So I mean, my takeaway from this was, yeah, I want a pinball cab, and I definitely want that Kinect camera hooked up to it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so so after that, kind of toured around the offices, looked and see what was set up, and
basically it's caught up with all the dudes and dudettes.
Well, I did. I mean, I kind of it's the weirdest place because it's so silent. You don't hear
full developers, mate.
I know. They all have headphones on and nobody's talking. And so here I am, I mean, just listen to this podcast and I'm probably echoing throughout the entire place.
Yeah.
And nobody really wants to be bothered,
Everyone's just meerkatting over their cubicles going, who is this noisy person entering our studio?
Right? Yeah. So I then went and talked to Ben, and Ben is the one responsible for the Pinball Tournaments app.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, Ben, I got some things to talk to you about.
I've got so many questions.
So many questions. And we got some things clarified, which was good. And I got to throw in a couple of suggestions, which was good too. So first things first, what FarSight does with that app, they're responsible for the table itself and making sure the table runs. Skills is the one that sets up the tournaments themselves. They're the ones that set up the matchmaking. They're the ones that determine what the prizes are. Basically, because FarSight had never done this kind of game before, Skills was like, why don't you let us handle this? So I imagine if FarSight really wanted to, they could start, kind of sticking their nose in and setting up things. But right now, they're not interested in doing that. So it's kind of on Skills' plate. So that right there answered 75% of my questions, because I was having game crash issues, which Ben is aware of, and he's going to be getting to that as his next task after. And I'll say this: most of the studio that works on the pinball side of things, they are all getting everything ready for this license loss and how the game looks afterwards, and how it functions. With some people not being able to see at all any of the Williams tables, and then there's those of us that own them being able to see them and how that all works. And it's a monumental task that they're having to cram and get in.
So really, it's just the Pinball Tournaments app and probably Akuda and just the license work that they're doing at the moment, right?
Yeah,
pretty much. That's literally it.
Literally,
yeah, which would explain the reason why they've been so quiet.
Yeah. And so, like, matchmaking questions, it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to talk to Arcuda about that. The crashing, that's fine, but I said, I've crashed while playing a cash game, and I then discovered that when I got home, that you can contact contact Skills through the app and say, hey, I had a game crash. And then I said, can I please have my entry fee refunded? And I had 7 instances of that. They refunded every single one of them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So
is it hard to find it? Is it hard to find the menu in the app?
No, it's in the upper right corner where you do menu, and down at the bottom it just says support, I believe. You click on it, and then you'll be able to go from there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Ben was then asking, like, what percentage of the time I hit certain score goals. What did I think of the time limit that was there? So I gave him feedback on that stuff. But then I hit him with, we need another table, and I think Centaur should be the next one that you guys do. And he was like, that could maybe work. We'll see.
Yeah, so, Centaur would be a pretty good one to use.
But then I also hit him with, and this was kind of, because I jokingly said, because your head-to-head is so wonderful, and everybody just kind of rolls their eyes.
Look, at least they're not trying to have any aspersions about how terrible it is.
Right. So what I said was, what they need to put into TPA is exactly what they're doing with the Skills app. Pick a table, one table, run a 2-day tournament on it, and you log in plays basically, and then people can challenge those plays. So you're not having to be connected with anybody. You're not relying on anybody else being online. It's play at your own leisure.
Yeah.
And if there's a score
asynchronous.
You're right. If there's a score that's
asynchronous.
already posted, then that's the score you're going to challenge against. If there isn't any scores posted, then you're the one posting the score and waiting for somebody to challenge it. And that would be an excellent way of not making people, but getting people to want to load up the app daily and kind of work up a leaderboard that's just going to be cleared real quickly afterwards. And it's a timed game, so you're not having to work, the skills app is 3 minutes. So it's not like you're going to be grinding or doing anything of that nature. And then I also said, and I'll get into this just a little bit, but the Stern Pinball app, they're going to start going into this token-based gold, collecting thing.
Oh yeah, for the mobile offerings, yeah.
It might also be on the Steam offering. I'm not sure. I think it will be on the Steam offering. But you and I inherently have this, as you call them, Smurf berries.
Smurf berries, man. They taste like shit.
Right. We just have this revulsion of, oh God, the energy bar or anything like that. And they were like, no, but we're actually really generous with it's really easy to have these tokens and it's not an issue to be playing. And so I said, well, there's where you implement it. Put it in now, get people warmed up to the idea so that then when the Stern app relaunches itself into this new version, people will
know how it works.
What to expect. Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
And they were kind of intrigued by that idea. We'll see if it, obviously all this would have to be kicked up to management, and we'll see if management actually goes, yeah, let's do that, or if they go with so many other ideas that I kind of bounced and got replies to. No.
That's a no. Yeah.
Yes, we would love that. Yes, that'd be wonderful. But there's certain time factors, money factors, development factors, and
care factors.
They're just not going to happen. Yeah. So, but after doing that discussion with Ben, I got led into Rob's office, and Rob is actually working on the Stern Pinball app, but not in the way that you think. He's working on the VR Stern app.
All right, because they had the Gear VR implementation, right?
And this was with Oculus Rift.
Oh, right.
And he's like, have you seen this yet? And I went, no, I didn't even know you were working on it. And he goes, oh, okay. And so up on his monitor, he's got the screen of what you'd be seeing. And so they've got a whole new, basically this, think of it as some overly wealthy dude's living room that could afford to have a giant neon sign that says Star Trek,
right?
And a Stern neon sign, and off in one corner is a pinball or a video game cabinet, and you look over to the side, and there's this nice bookshelves and this lovely couch behind you, and I'm looking around in the headset, and full 360 really looked nice. You select the table, and this kind of robotic thing comes down and kind of assembles the table in front of you. And I guess that was an Oculus call.
It assembles the table. It actually builds it.
Yeah, like
that's pretty cool.
Like the body comes down, the legs get snapped on, the head gets attached, and boom, and then all the little things retract up into the ceiling. So it's like I said, it's kind of futuristic and everything. It's pretty interesting looking. But as I'm looking at the monitor, once the game starts playing, I'm like, oh well, that just looks like Star Trek, just like I've seen in Stern Pinball app.
Yeah,
I put the headset on. Oh wow,
really?
Oh my god, I was floored. It takes a little bit of finagling to. Basically, you can you push one of the buttons on the controller, and the camera that's looking at you then tries to figure out what height you are. But it also it's dependent on where you're looking with the headset on, and so it takes a little tiny couple button pushes of you either crouching or standing on your tippy toes or looking up with the headset a little bit higher or whatever, because I was able to get the make it look like I was 7 feet tall playing the table. I was
right.
able to make it look like my chin was resting on the apron.
Nice.
So yeah, there was and then it also was dependent upon how close to the camera you were standing, determined how far over the table you could lean.
I see.
So I took a couple of steps back to give me more of a chance to be able to lean. But I'm telling you, looking at this thing, it felt every bit like I was standing in front of the real table.
Really? Wow.
I mean, it looked phenomenal.
Like texturally, it looked the same.
It's just all the details and how everything's sitting in the cabinet. It just the best example I can tell you of this was I was playing a little bit and I went to put the controller down and I tried putting it down on top of the
cabinet
machine that didn't exist.
All right.
That's how
immersive it is.
Yeah, how immersive it is. My only complaint, and there was a bit of the screen door effect. Because what we're talking about here is it's a 1080 image basically being split into two.
Yeah. So it's basically 720 each side.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a screen door. And so it made like the inserts at the bottom, I couldn't quite read them.
Okay.
Now, that also might be that I had to take off my glasses in order to fit into the thing.
Okay.
And there is a slider that can move the lens forward and back.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I mean, I think I found my sweet spot, but I still wasn't able to see it crystal clear. I then finagled the headset over my glasses, but my glasses aren't set up for close viewing anyway. My glasses are set for distance. So then we'd switch it over to like AC/DC, and I was looking at the at the back where the jukebox is, and it lists the song titles.
Yep.
And I'm looking, and I'm like, yeah, see, I can't even read any of those. And Rob goes, well, yeah, neither can we, because the game doesn't have that high resolution to begin with. Yeah. So you're dealing with what is available with the build itself, and that's something that they're going to work on. But the game runs in 90 frames instead of 60.
Wow. Oh,
and it's required a whole new set of tuning. But I'm telling you, man, it was crazy responsive.
Yeah.
And I just told him, I said, all you really need is to have an actual physical box there
to lean on. Yeah.
To lean on, and you'd be fantastic.
Done.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. So that's something to look forward to. I don't know when that's even going to be dropping, but you'll know it first because it's going to be first coming to Oculus before it comes to anything else.
Well, it'll be Oculus only because they're really the only ones that. I mean, the other one is Vive, but I think Oculus will have this for a long time.
No, I mean before it hits. Not the VR aspect, but this new revamped version of the Stern app.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think it's going to hit Oculus first, and then eventually we'll filter to the other, to mobile and to Steam. But for you VR people, you're in for a treat. Wow. It was really pretty cool.
Man, we've got 2 VRs, Oculus Rifts at where I work at the moment because they're a bunch of geeks, and I should perhaps darken Flippy Floppy's doorstep and say, mate, do you need an extra set of eyes on this?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's bloody amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this too. I'm a stickler for resolution.
Mm.
I mean, it's part of my job. And so if I see even the slightest of something blurry or fuzzy when I know it should be crystal clear, that throws me off. And I'm kind of a nuisance at this one movie theater because of issues that I've had there with double projection not lining up correctly and therefore causing color separation. It just, nobody else is going to notice it, but to me, it's
you're like the comic book guy. You're the comic book guy from Simpsons going up and going,
right?
I'd like to make a
projection ever.
Yeah.
So he showed me that, but then I got to see a behind the scenes thing, because this is also what Rob does, how they tune the machines.
Oh, okay.
So I was just kind of talking to him, and I said, I go, the one table that you guys have that I've never had it play this way out in the wild, and it's Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I said, when you do a full plunge and that ball comes all the way around from the top, all the way down to the flipper, and you hold the flipper up in the left flipper. In Pinball Arcade, it hits the left flipper and bounces pretty much straight up and then lands right back down on the left flipper.
No way that happens in real life.
It does not happen in real life. Every single time it bounces over to the right, sometimes doing a center drain, sometimes doing an outlane drain, sometimes going right into a slingshot, which sends it to the left outlane drain. But typically, it's not a good idea to do.
No.
And so
really risky.
Right. And so I told him, I go, now I don't know if this is, if the way that you guys have it set up is the way it was designed, and that it's simply a matter of playing on all of these machines that are 30 plus years old and causing the ball to do different behavior than what was designed, or if you guys just plain have it wrong. I don't know. But I do know what I've played out in the wild, and not a single one of them has ever done that. So I don't know what the creature that they have at FarSight, what that does. But so he kind of went, well, let me see. So he started playing with the flipper angle and how the ball comes off of it, and he was actually able to make it start bouncing to the left.
Oh, right.
And it was like pretty quickly that he was able to do that. So that was where I got where I was able to see him, how he does tuning and stuff. He was currently working on Monster Bash and taking out the railroads that are when you hit the ramps.
Oh, good.
So he was working on those.
Spoils it. Like those railroads. Railroads anywhere spoil it.
Yeah.
I know where they're necessary, but
he was also working on he showed me how the lighting works.
Oh.
And that was kind of different. So like a good example of that was on No Good Gophers. So on the back where you have the clear plexi.
Yes.
For the golf cart.
Yes.
Well, you can't just have a light shining down the bottom and it making it through all those layers of plexi, because as far as the computer is concerned, that's a solid thing, and the light's going to stop at that. So he has to add the effect for each layer.
Oh, so there's like a virtual light between each sandwich layer of that.
Right. He was also able to, because he can look at the table from any direction and basically get down to ball level with the camera. He was able to kind of go through that, and it's one of those things where it's, folks, you don't want to see what we were seeing.
So what did you see? What did you see?
Things that are misaligned, and as he termed it, it was shortcuts that people took back in those first two seasons that they don't take anymore, but drive him absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and would be way too expensive to take out now.
Well, because you would have to have all the art assets redone.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that. So you have to make do with what you have.
And just get triggered every single time you see it.
Right. But as I pointed out, I go, it's funny because you're the only one that's going to get triggered, because you're the only one that's ever going to be able to view these from these angles. The angles that we're allowed to view it from, it looks great. But it was interesting seeing how you could see how there's placeholders basically, and then there's things that are stacked on top that make it look active in terms of the lighting and everything. So it was kind of cool to see how the sausage is made, if you will.
Yes.
And then after that, I joined Mike for the Twitch broadcast, which you can view even now if you go to Twitch and go to FarSight's channel. It's their most recent Twitch broadcast.
I'll have to link it.
Yes, you will have to link it. Except for, unfortunately, I didn't do too well.
Oh, whoops.
Well, I blame multiple things. I blame, first off, playing with a 360 controller. I'm not used to that. I blame that his computer had a little bit of lag, and I had to get used to that. So that was kind of the weird thing of the day. It was like, why is everything lagging today? And then it was a factor of playing tables I just haven't played in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So, but it was still fun. It was fun. We only played 3 different tables, I think, total.
Okay.
A lot of time. The hour with that went very quick.
So did anyone ask you any questions?
Oh yeah, there was lots of questions. Well, the first questions was, who's that guy with the glasses? So, and then I started kind of dropping a lot of Arcuda information into it also.
Oh yeah.
It's really kind of talking up what my experience was with that, and what the time frame is of people being able to get on board on all that. But yeah, all in all, it was pretty cool just seeing some things. And then in terms of news that I can share, they are almost done completely with Woe Nelly. They're
okay.
still working on Big Buck Hunter, but those indeed are the next tables that will be coming out.
Okay.
But like I said, because of the license loss thing, it's kind of pushed all the other projects timelines
Behind.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to basically do everything to get the license stuff sorted.
Exactly. And then I did see what one of the new IPs is that they're working on, but I can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I heard what the second IP was, but I can't talk about it. And those are in the early stages also, so it's not like they're...
But the good news is there are other IPs being developed, which is one of the questions we had.
And one of them of the two, one of them has nothing to do with a ball of any sort. So
there you go.
There you go.
How interesting.
Yes. But it was a good visit. It was a really good visit, and good to see the guys. And they're... I don't know if it's just, they are hurting for visitors or whatever, but they seem to enjoy my presence there too. So, I don't know if I was just a distraction for the day or whatever.
Well, that's good. It sounds like you had a really good time up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Which kind of leads me into what we're going to talk about next week, though.
Oh, okay.
We can go ahead and preview next week.
Ooh.
Preview next week. We are going to be talking to Greg, who has a YouTube channel called Spacey's Arcade, and he just did an hour-long video about his experience with the software for cabinet mode on his cabinet. I don't know what brand, or if it's a homebrew or whatever. We can find that out. But as I was watching it, there's plenty of things that I realized these are common questions that or misunderstandings that people have, and we would kind of like to clarify a lot of that, get out the proper information rather than misinformation. So yeah, we're gonna get into that, but obviously that podcast is by the time that hits, it's gonna be past the 30th. So
yeah, it will.
Let's just kind of push right now the whole software package if you're interested in getting it. I can tell you this: if you buy, or if you already have all of the tables
on Steam,
you're going to... No, I'm not going to say it. You edit that out. I don't think I can say it, Jared.
Okay.
No, never mind. Never mind.
You censor yourself mid pitch.
Yeah, mid pitch. I'm censoring myself. What we do know about, though, that with the Arcuda cabinet is that it's being designed as total plug and play. So it should be simple of simple in terms of its functions.
So anyone that knows how to plug in a VCR should be able to make this work.
Precisely. That's just how the boards are that they're designing are going to work. It's going to be a case where you have a console, boom, you plug it in, it works on the screen. If you want to play Candy Crush Giant, you plug your phone into the cabinet, and all of a sudden that touch screen becomes a giant mobile device, and you can play any of your mobile games on there just as you would on your phone, because it's all touchscreen.
Yeah, right.
So think about when you go to, if you've gone to a Dave & Buster's or one of these arcades with giant machines, and you've played Giant Fruit Ninja, there you go. You'll be able to do the same thing.
That's pretty cool.
So that's it's they're kind of pushing this idea that the target audience for this is it's open for any style of play you can think of.
Yeah.
There's going to be light gun attachments eventually. There's going to be fully licensed arcade games playable on this, not MAME emulation. So that's kind of the positive spin on getting
this big
cabinet. Yeah,
this big $7,000 or $8,000 US bit of furniture for your lounge.
Right.
Yeah,
because
it's not just for pinball.
Exactly. Yeah, think bigger. It may look like a pinball machine, but it's going to be for something a little bit more.
It has a pinball form factor, but it's a multi-use entertainment platform.
Exactly. Exactly. That being said, the cabinets themselves aren't going to be ready for a little while. So don't think that if you order it today that you're going to get it 2 weeks from now. That ain't going to happen. And
Cuda is the type of company that as we've been speaking with them, that doesn't rush things out. So,
well, good enough is not good enough. They want it to be spectacular.
Yeah. Like basically arcade quality.
Exactly.
Stuff. So with that, you have to do a lot of ruggedization on design and also componentry. So this is the reason why the cabinets are taking longer, because quality is really the first priority for these guys.
Yeah. So if that, I know there was a few people that wanted to listen to this podcast specifically because they were on the fence about whether they were going to be buying the Arcuda cabinet or not. And my takeaway from everything I've talked to them about, from me just playing the prototype machine, was that if you're going to be spending the money for a pinball cabinet anyway, why not spend it on one that could handle the rigors of being out on route?
Yeah, it's funny, because I had someone contact me last week as well to ask. They had a customer that was interested in getting a digital pinball cabinet, and what would they recommend they do? And like in Australia, there are a couple of other people who will make shells for you, and you're dropping your own gear. And I said, look, you could do that, but seriously, like, just wait for this thing. Like, it's a beast, and you won't be disappointed, I don't think.
And that was we never wanted to actually give a recommendation for the cabinet until we'd actually touched it. That was why I wanted to make sure that that's why I really wanted to make sure I rushed up and put my hands on this thing. Because I didn't.
Even if it was only an alpha version of the cabinet.
Right. I didn't want to feel like, some pinball machine you would have gotten at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that it was at a certain level of play. Now, if your gripes or anything have to do with the software aspect of FarSight, look, it's not going to suddenly become photorealistic. It's going to always look like FarSight's design. So for those of you that are thinking, but I'm getting it sight unseen, the only thing you're really getting sight unseen is, yes, what it truly looks like in cabinet, but you can kind of gather that from the videos that have been posted by people. And then sight unseen, whether or not you think the Kinect camera is that's it's late in the game, but that's our push. If you had that money and you were getting ready to spend it on something, and you could buy one of these other cabinets that are going to be of about the equal price, I think the thing that again pushes it all over the edge is all the other things it's going to be able to be capable of.
Yeah.
And most of those things they haven't even really been able to announce yet. So
yeah. There's plenty of stuff you could do with this thing.
Yeah.
It's not just a pinball cabinet. It's much bigger than that.
Okay, I've talked way too much.
Hey, I found out something this week as well, and I had a whole lot of stuff wish list on Steam, and I got a hold of emails the other day for Steve saying, "Hey, things are on sale because it's summer sales time."
It is summer sales time.
So I went, "Oh, perfect opportunity for me to get some of all the Zen table packs that I've been missing." So the way they've got if you're purchasing for the first time on Steam, all the Zen table packs, the older ones. They've got them really nicely bundled now, so you can get like the Marvel Cinematic Pack and all these different sort of versions of the packs. And I just went in there and just spent about $60 or $70. But that wasn't all on Zen. I actually bought Black Flaggers as well. Because it has dropped from $19.99 when I first looked at it to $9.99. And then they took an extra 20% off that. So I said, "Oh, shut up and take my money."
Oh, that's
I was like, just give it to me. And I loved it. Like, it's such a good table. Yeah. They've done a wonderful job on that thing. And even, the Surface Book 2 is pretty capable at running it. And I think I can get some things up to Wicked mode. But a few of the other things I've had to scale back, but I still don't care because it looks great.
Yeah, I've got it running full ultra mode.
Yeah.
Which is like makes your eyes bleed.
Yeah. Because it looks pretty good with the levels I've got. I'm pretty impressed with it.
Yeah.
And I also got what else did I buy? There was a whole lot of the Zen tables, which were fine, but I got some other non-pinball titles, and one of those was a bullet hell shoot 'em up that I've had my eyes on for a very long time, Ikaruga. And that thing was incredible. This shoot 'em up game looks amazing as a shoot 'em up. Very different to what you would see on mobile. And yeah, I'm hooked I love it. I'm terrible at it, but I love it.
I'll just highlight with the Steam sale for Zen, there is a large collection of tables that are 60% off.
Yeah.
Virtually everything else is 50% off. The only thing that aren't 50% off is their last two table packs, which is Last Jedi and Jurassic Park. Those are 30% off. So I mean, you can still get everything on sale.
It's huge markdowns, like mega. So just get in there. I mean, most people will probably have all the Zen tables, but if you're new like me to Steam, geez, now is the time to fork over the cash, eh?
Yeah.
And just get on it. Because the in-game Steam experience for Zen is really good. So
and now you'll be able to join in all of my tournaments.
Most of them. I've still got some packs that are outstanding. And I'll need to get my hands on those, but I might just go ahead and buy them. I was trying to get unlock codes for them, but with those prices, I probably should just go and get them because it's like they're pretty good, and I don't really mind so much. So yeah,
very good,
very good. So yes, get on it.
All right, folks. Well, with that, I think we're gonna wrap things up. Make sure you go visit our website. It is BlahCadePinball.com/episodes. I was just alerted today that I had the wrong address in Twitter this entire time. I had the old address, and so it was connecting. So that's been fixed. Thanks. I thought I'd gotten all those, but now and then things slip through the cracks. Why don't you go ahead and follow us on Twitter? It is @BlahCade, or you can follow myself. I am @ShutYourTraps, and he is @JaredMorgs. I think I'm just singular @Shut Your Trap. Now that I think about it, I gotta correct that too.
Yeah, go Shut Your Trap on Twitter. That's the only way you can
yeah. And then you can also drop us an email at blahblahblahcade@gmail.com. If you have any comments, questions, things you don't feel like being in a public forum, although you can always send us a private message via Twitter also. That does work. So yeah. We have a plan for next week, which is unusual, and it should be equally interesting. Like I said, it'll be coming from the perspective of somebody that has the general questions and not all the answers that we've kind of gathered and collected for ourselves. So,
yeah, it should be good.
Alrighty. Well, until next time, if you got $7,000, have fun spending it.
Yeah. Do it.
Do it. All right. Until next time. Bye bye.
See you later.